Hello, everyone. I am Sean, and welcome once again to my Horror Corner. As always, thank you so much for watching the video today. I do appreciate you tuning in. And to those of you that continue to hit that subscribe button, thank you as well. I really appreciate the support from everybody, the interaction, those of you that like the videos, that comment, that just, yeah, interact with me, that share the videos on social media. That all means so much to me. So thank you all. You guys are the best. I really do appreciate your support. Today, we are going to be talking about Five Nights at Freddy's. I know with that sequel coming out, my plan right now is to try to go to a theater and catch that when it comes out. So we'll see if I can pull that off and do a review after that. So I wanted to get the first one done because I've never talked about this movie on my YouTube channel or as a guest on anyone else's, as far as I can remember. So, and I remember the first time I saw this film, not being impressed. And I heard a lot of hype about it. I know that it has a lot of fans out there. Um, I just wasn't that impressed with it the first time I saw it. But going back and rewatching it today, this was just a second watch for me. Um, yeah, it's not as bad as I thought. We'll get into my overall thoughts on it, and I'll give it a review here at the end. But um, yeah, it's not as bad as I thought. So maybe I just yeah, I don't know. I was in a mood or something. Maybe the first time I watched this one. But let's go ahead and get into Five Nights at Freddy's. So tagline for the film: Can you survive 5 nights? Brief synopsis: recently fired and desperate for work, a troubled young man named Mike agrees to take a position as a night security guard at an abandoned themed restaurant, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. But he soon discovers that nothing at Freddy's is what it seems. Film was released October 27th of 2023, directed by Emma Tammy, screenplay by Scott Cawthorn, Seth Cudback, and Emma Tammy. Story by Scott Cawthorn, Chris Lee Hill, and Tyler McIntyre, based on the Five Nights at Freddy's video game, also created by Scott Cawthorn, produced by Scott Cawthorn and Jason Blum, cinematography by Lynn Moncrief, edited by Andrew Weissman and William Pally, music done by the Newton Brothers, distributed by Universal Pictures, a runtime of 109 minutes, $20 million budget, 297.1 million at the box office. So the film did very well. Uh, I had heard of the video game. I've never played the video game. I'm not a big gamer. I've played some sports games here and there, and I am a fan of the Resident Evil video games, but I had never played Five Nights at Freddy's. So, other than just hearing a few people talk about it here and there, I really didn't know what to expect. And maybe that's why the film, the first time I saw it, didn't jump out at me like it did as a lot of people, because I wasn't familiar with the franchise. Um, the first time I ever heard of Five Nights at Freddy's, I think my brother and I, and maybe even my oldest son, we were in a collectibles type store looking at horror stuff, and one of the salesmen there was super excited to show us the Five Nights at Freddy's stuff they had. I had no idea what he was talking about. Um, and then I heard later that it had been a video game that was pretty popular. Again, I never played it, so I didn't really know anything about it. Um, Maybe that's why the movie didn't jump out at me the first time I saw it. Hard to say. But as far as the cinematography, the score, and the story, starting there, like I always like to do. Cinematography is fine. Movie looks good. I don't think there's anything here that's just amazing. I do think the animatronics look pretty good. They're kind of creepy. Um, it reminds me a little bit of, and it's a movie that I haven't really heard hardly anybody ever talk about, but a few years prior to this one coming out, there was a movie called the Banana Splits movie. And I was familiar with the Banana Splits because I used to watch that show as a kid when I was growing up. So um, I was vaguely familiar with the Banana Splits, and it's very similar, an animatronic thing where the animatronics are coming to life and killing people in the studio in that movie. Um, so this is very similar to that. This is what that reminds me of. But I didn't really, in reading about this film and doing a little bit of research, didn't hear that it drew any inspiration from that. And with it being a video game, I'm sure it didn't. But that's just kind of the way I was looking at it. It reminded me a lot of the Banana Splits movie. Um, but again, I think the animatronics look good. I think it's done pretty well. They do look pretty creepy at times, so that was interesting. Um, Score for the film doesn't jump out at me. It's fine. It does what it needs to do. I don't think there's really anything special to talk about there. And the story, again, not being familiar with the video game, I like the story. It's fine. It's interesting. Again, a little better than what I imagined the first time I saw this movie. So maybe I was just really out of it the first time I watched this film, and that's why I got nothing out of it. I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, those cinematography, score, story, everything's fine. I mean, it does what it needs to do. Nothing, I think, again, incredibly special that jumps out at me, but it's all fine. Um, Cast for the film: Josh Hutcherson, Elizabeth Lale, Piper Rubio, Mary Stuart Masterson, and Matthew Lillard. That's the only ones I'll mention. Love Matthew Lillard. Been a huge fan of his ever since Scream. Y'all have heard me talk about him and know how big of a fan I am of the Scream franchise. So, and I think he's great in this as well. Everybody else does a good job. There's a few moments I feel like where um, maybe it wasn't the best performances by some of the other adult actors in the film. I think the little girl does a great job. But yeah, again, nothing incredibly special here other than just love seeing Matthew Lillard back on the screen. As far as the characters, I think a lot of these characters are flawed. I don't think, other than the little girl, you can really get 100% behind any of them. They all have moments where they don't seem that likable, in my opinion. Some of the decisions they make, and when you find out things as you go through the film about different ones of them, it's a tremendous amount of flawed characters. But so maybe that hurts the film a little bit. Is other than the little girl, to me, it's hard to get 100% behind anyone here. Even our main character of Mike. He's okay. He has his moments where he's fairly likable, but that he has some moments as well where you really question his judgment. One moment in particular where he makes a horrible decision, and he does backtrack pretty quickly. But just the fact that he could make that decision in the first place, I think, puts his character in question. So, again, not an incredibly likable group of characters other than the girl. But yeah, I don't really think they're. I guess you're probably supposed to be behind Mike and Vanessa, but again, they're fairly flawed in my opinion. So it's hard to be 100% on board with anyone here. Um, as far as production notes, I mean, I really didn't see a lot that didn't pertain to the video game, so not a lot that I'm going to mention here. Warner Brothers actually acquired film rights for this movie back in 2015, but then they had, and I'm not familiar with what this means. Somebody else might be, but they had done something kind of like putting the film on turnaround, whatever that means. And then Blumhouse acquired the rights in 2017. Jason Blum mentioned how excited he was about working with the creator, Scott Cawthorn. But the film went through, and I think I'm saying that wrong. I don't think it's Thorn. I think it's Cawthon, maybe. But the film went through several scripts and directors before everything finally got settled down, and they got into making this film. So that's pretty much all I've got for anything as far as behind the scenes or production notes. I'm going to get a drink of my coffee, and then we'll start walking through the plot. Opening scene for this one, we get a security guard who's panicked. It turns out that he's in this pizzeria. I don't think know that at the time, but we get the security guard who's panicking and trying to get away, trying to escape through a vent. And then eventually we see where he is caught and killed by a animatronic. Opening scene's good. It's a little creepy when you get a brief shot of this animatronic. Again, nothing mind-blowing here. I don't think this is an amazing opening scene, but it does what it needs to do as far as getting the film kicked off and set up for a little bit of an idea of what we're in store for. So fine with the opening scene. And then we get an introduction to Mike and his little sister named Abby. Mike is fired for assaulting a father that he mistakes for a kidnapper in his job as far as being like a security guard at a mall. He then goes and talks with his career counselor, Steve, who is played by Matthew Lillard, and Steve offers Mike a job as a night guard at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, excuse me. Initially, Mike turns the job down because he doesn't want to work nights because he has custody of his little sister. But then when he finds out that his Aunt Jane is trying to get custody of the sister, and part of what's being used against him is the fact that he's not working, he goes ahead and accepts the job so that he could try to do the best he can to hold on to custody of his sister. Again, here I think we're just kind of getting an introduction to characters and the story being set up. Initially, Mike seems like a pretty likable guy. Again, we get to see Matthew Lillard as Steve. So even though Steve is not the best character, and you can kind of tell that he does seem suspicious. I think that's picked up very early in this movie. Still like seeing Matthew Lillard on the screen. Obviously, you don't really like Aunt Jane. the scene where Mike mistakes the father for a kidnapper and ends up tackling the guy and beating the shit out of him in a little water fountain is kind of funny. Um, but yeah, I mean, we're getting story here, and it's fine. I'm I was watching it this morning, and as it was kind of playing out here, I'm like, okay, I mean, this is fine. I don't know. So far, I'm not incredibly impressed, but it doesn't seem as bad as what I remembered either. So I was just kind of on board and anxious to see how the film would play out. Um, Steve ends up telling Mike, as Mike ends up calling him back and accepting this job, that the pizzeria was a very popular place in the 80s, but eventually it was shut down. However, the owner didn't want to let go of the place, so the building hadn't been demolished. Um, and Mike goes to his first night on the job, where he's mainly just watching monitors. His role is to keep people out of the building. He does. There is kind of a spot there where he's walking around, and we get a brief look at the animatronics. I actually like that scene because here again, I thought the animatronics looked really good. They did look a little creepy when he first finds them, so I enjoyed this scene a little bit. And I do remember here when I saw this morning again, I was like, okay, this might not be bad. These things look better than what I initially remembered them looking like. So I was kind of on board and ready to continue on with this, and wondering why I didn't like it the first time I saw it. But uh, Mike ends up having a dream there while he's at work. He falls asleep. We find out later that he's on sleeping pills, but he ends up having this dream where he dreams about his brother being kidnapped, that he saw his younger brother Garrett kidnapped. And he also sees 5 other kids who witness the kidnapping, but when he tries to talk to them in his dream, they all just run away. Uh, Later, Jane, the aunt, she ends up hiring some vandals. She's trying to do everything she can possibly do to get custody of Abby, so she hires these vandals that includes a girl named Max, who is Mike's babysitter for Abby, to go in and try and destroy the place, thinking then that would get Mike fired. That would hurt his case to hold on, and she would be able to get Abby from there. The second night at work, Mike has another dream. This time he's able to, it's very similar to the first dream. He sees his brother being kidnapped. He sees these 5 other kids. They try to run away. He ends up being able to catch up to one of them, but they end up cutting him. Also that night, a police officer shows up there at the pizzeria. We meet Officer Vanessa Shelley. She does talk to Mike a little bit, telling him that she doesn't think he'll stay, that no one stays there. She also explains that 5 children went missing at the pizzeria at one point. That's why it closed down. Um, Once Mike leaves for the evening, we do see the vandals then break in the next day. But while they're there, the animatronics come to life and they end up killing all of the vandals, including Max. Uh, I thought this was a pretty fun scene. Again, we're just kind of initially just getting more storytelling as Vanessa's giving Mike some background. And again, her character seems fine here also. But the scenes where the vandals break in, pretty good with the animatronics attacking. Again, they look a little creepy. There's some comedy here. One of the vandals in particular, this big guy that's running and screaming, that part's kind of humorous. So I enjoyed these scenes. I don't think there's anything amazing about any of these kills, but it was a fun scene. It wasn't bad. Um, yeah, and again, really here at this point, I was just like, okay, I don't remember why I disliked this movie so much. It doesn't seem amazing, but I don't remember why I disliked it as much as I did. Um, From here, Officer Shelley shows up at Mike's place. She tells him about the break-in. She also had found his sleeping pills, so she questions him about that. He ends up telling her about his brother being kidnapped, and that the sleeping pills help a little bit. He tells her about the dreams that he has, and then he ends up going to work on this third night. And because Max has been killed, which Officer Shelley doesn't mention any of that. That's never mentioned. But because Max doesn't show up, Mike ends up having to take Abby to work. And while there, the animatronics kind of come to life and seem to befriend Abby. Mike sees this. He's very concerned, but Abby seems to love these things. They all seem fairly innocent. We've got, I think Mr. Cupcake is the name of one of them. We saw him earlier killing the vandals. We get Freddy Fazbear. We get Bonnie. We get Foxy. We get Chica. And even though Mike is, again, very concerned, the animatronics seem to do very well with Abby, and she seems to love them. However, the next day, Abby then starts telling Mike about these kids. And here's one of the issues that I have with this film, because So supposedly in her time with these animatronics, and maybe I missed something, but it is revealed to Abby that these animatronics are not necessarily coming to life, but they are more. There's ghosts in this pizzeria, and these ghosts are possessing these animatronics. Mike is also able to put together incredibly quickly that these five kids who were and that keep popping up in his dreams are the ones that have been also murdered, and they're the ones possessing these animatronics. Um, Again, it's fine for the story. I don't mind this story. I think it's intriguing. I don't like how quickly Mike is able to put all this together. It just seems very rushed. It seems very awkward to me how quickly he is able to put it together. How quickly, you know, I mean, Abby, I guess if they told her, I don't believe we see a lot of that, but I would also think that if Mike, once he heard Abby tell this story, he would be freaked out a little bit. But again, the fact that he seemed to already know what was going on, I thought was very awkward. Abby also mentioned drawings and that all these kids keep talking about a yellow rabbit, that seems to be the main thing. We haven't seen this yellow rabbit yet. Um, but again, I think everything here just got really rushed, and it just doesn't make sense to me how quickly, primarily Mike, was able to put all of this together. On the fourth night, um, Abby, Mike, and Vanessa are back in the pizzeria. And again, here, I'm questioning Mike's character and his judgment of your sister that you have custody of, that you're trying so hard to keep. You're taking her back to a place where you believe ghosts are possessing animatronics and they're interacting with your sister. It just, I think you really can kind of question his judgment. Um, this part of the story just doesn't, I don't know, doesn't really work with me the way Mike just goes for all of this so easily. Vanessa also seems to be perfectly fine with being a part of this. And again, we're going to get more story into why, but it just seems so awkward to me. While they're playing around with the animatronics and everything seems to be going great, Mike and Vanessa end up going into a back room and talking. Vanessa mentions to Mike something about these mechanicisms of the. I think I just said that word wrong, but the way these animatronics are put together, that there is something that can anybody that puts these suits on can be even up to fatally injured wearing these things. She also seems to get very upset with Mike for being there, although she seemed perfectly on board earlier. Mike mentions to Vanessa that there he feels like he's so much more in touch with his brother, and that he wants to find out what happened to his brother. He wants to find out who took his brother, who killed his brother. He also wants to find out who killed these other kids, and now that's become his obsession, is figuring all of this out. um, I kind of want it to make sense, and in some ways it makes sense with his brother being kidnapped and him wanting to find out who did it. That part makes sense. Being willing to put his younger sister, though, in danger like this doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know. I do have a few issues with this story at this point, and can maybe kind of see some of the things that caused me to maybe not enjoy the film so much the first time I watched it. Because here I really do find myself really questioning not only Mike, but even Vanessa. She also warns Mike to never bring Abby back to the pizzeria. Vanessa, who her character is just so kind of, I feel like back and forth. There's not a lot of consistency, I don't feel like, from her character, because there's times when she seems perfectly on board with everything, and then there's other times where she seems terrified and panicky and wants Mike and Abby to stay away. And again, we kind of get a little bit of why here coming up a little bit down the road, but it just causes me to not like her character a whole lot. Mike's judgment here, the way he's handling things, causes me to question his character somewhat. And so this is kind of what I was talking about in the beginning when I said I don't know if there's any of these characters other than Abby that are really that likable. But while they're having this conversation, Abby ends up getting injured. Um, they're able to help her out and take her. And then the next day, Mike, who, again, here's where we can talk about more questioning his judgment, because he supposedly wants so bad to keep his sister. That's what all of this is for. That's why he took this job, is so he can hold on to his sister and not allow Jane to take her. But now he has Jane coming to babysit her so that he can take more sleeping pills, go back to the pizzeria, continue to dream, and try to figure out what happened. Um, Mike has flaws. I mean, again, it seems like he's very torn between taking care of his sister and finding out what happened to his brother. And maybe it's somewhat understandable, but at the same time, it just bothers me about his character. Um, while back at the pizzeria, Mike ends up having another dream. In this dream, the kids end up telling Mike. He also finds the bodies of the vandals there, including Max. He finds the people that went in to vandalize the place. He finds their bodies. He ends up having a dream in which the kids tell him that he can be with Garrett forever in exchange for Abby. They want Abby. And initially, he agrees to this, even though it's only for a very brief moment. And then he realizes that what he's doing is wrong and tries to back out. The fact that he would agree at all, again, is bothersome because the only reason, again, he took this job was to try to hold on to her. So, again, his back and forth between finding out what happened with his brother and protecting his sister, it just is a huge issue for me where this character is concerned. Um, he does, like I said, though, change his mind. In that time, he then finds himself in this dream where he's getting attacked by these kids. They're all like either stabbing at him or cutting at him. Um, he kind of then wakes up from the dream, but he's now being attacked by the animatronics. They capture him once and kind of get him tied down. He's able to escape, but then we see another one of the animatronics get to him again. And while this is going on, uh, Freddy Fazbear ends up showing up at Mike's house. Off screen kills Jane. We just see her body, and then ends up taking Abby and heading back to the pizzeria. Um, again, I wish the kills in this movie are not that we just really don't see anything. I feel like we get a few with the vandals there, but so much of the violence I almost feel like happens off screen where we hear screams or certain things happen and then we come upon stuff. So I wish we would have gotten something a little better there. I would like to have seen maybe this Aunt Jane killed because she's supposed to be someone that you don't like for trying to take Abby away. So seeing a cool kill with her I think would have helped. We don't get that. We do get a slightly funny scene where Abby and this animatronic take a cab back to the pizzeria, and the animatronic scares the cab driver a little bit. But so, I mean, just a little bit of humor there. That's fine. Um, from there, Vanessa ends up finding Mike. Um, she's trying to help him with the injuries that he sustained. And Vanessa reveals that someone named William Afton is the one who had kidnapped and murdered not only Mike's brother, but these other 5 children as well. And that then William ended up putting these children's bodies in these animatronics, and that he is now in complete control of their souls. She also reveals that William is her father, which, here, I guess this explains the back and forth that we see with Vanessa's character. Um, it's an interesting plot twist. I really don't know 100% what I think about it. In some ways, I like that plot twist, and it does help explain Vanessa's character. Um, it also seems a little awkward that he's, doing some of the things he's doing. I guess he's really obsessed with this pizzeria. Supposedly, according to Vanessa, the reason he did this is because nobody would expect these bodies to be there. So, I mean, that would make sense with him hiding the bodies there, but to put them in the animatronics, again, I guess that's just something no one would expect. But it just seems like a little bit of a reach. Not being familiar with the game, that may be 100%. I'm still not familiar with the game, so that may be 100% what happens that way. But it just seems a little awkward to me. Um, Once Vanessa reveals, though, that William is actually her father, Mike, of course, is very upset. He wants to go back to the pizzeria. He wants Vanessa to help him. She doesn't she doesn't agree to do this, but she does tell him that his only chance would be to maybe electrocute these animatronics to shut them down so that he can get Abby and get free. And that's what Mike goes to do. Um, he's able to electrocute several of the animatronics to get them out of action for a little while. Um, However, Afton ends up showing up at the pizzeria, and he is the one that's dressed in this yellow rabbit suit. He's battling Mike, has Mike injured. Vanessa does end up showing up and saving Abby from, I believe it's Foxy, is the one animatronic that Mike hasn't electrocuted that's attacking her, but Vanessa's able to save her. Afton revives these animatronics and then unmasks, and we find out that Afton is Steve, Mike's career counselor. That he's been setting all of this up to try to get Abby from the very beginning, and so Steve was really Afton. Um, Vanessa tries to step in and battle her dad. There's a comment made there at one point by Afton where he mentions you had one job, and that was to keep Mike in the dark. To help get Abby. And so it almost seems like that initially Vanessa was part of this plan, and has now had second thoughts and wants nothing to do with it. Again, that might explain Vanessa's character being the way she's been through this, but I just think it's awkward, kind of an awkward twist on it. And kind of like I said, I don't know how to feel about some of this stuff because some of these little plot twists here and there, initially I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I'm like, oh, that doesn't make sense. So there's plot holes in this film, I feel like, that do stand out and that do hurt the movie a little bit. Um, while Vanessa and Afton are battling, Mike mentions to Abby that she told him that these animatronics seem to like pictures. The souls of these kids like these pictures, and so Abby draws a picture of the yellow rabbit actually murdering the children, which seems to then free them from the control that he has over them. And the animatronics end up attacking Afton and causing these internal mechanisms that Vanessa was warning Mike about earlier to begin to crush Afton. Which allows Mike, Abby, and Vanessa to escape the building while it starts to collapse. Um, we then skip a little bit ahead and we discover that Vanessa is now in a coma in the hospital from the injuries that she sustained. Mike and Abby are trying to put their life back together. Mike does visit Vanessa in the hospital. They're trying to get back to some sense of normalcy. And then as the film ends, we see this lead child, this main spirit, back at the pizzeria watching Afton die. And at one point, Afton makes the comment, I'll come back. I always come back, which I'm sure is setting the stage for the sequel that's about to come out. And that's pretty much Five Nights at Freddy's. I kind of like the end of the film a little bit, where the souls of these kids get free and they're the ones that end up attacking Afton. Vanessa going into a coma. Okay, I feel like that's a little bit of a reach because she was able to, escape with them. So why she fell into a coma later, I don't know. But it just again, I feel like that was a little bit of a stretch. And then Mike and Abby tried to resume their lives and get back to normal is fine. But again, then even after everything that's happened, Abby wants to go back to the pizzeria and visit the kids again. So okay, it is what it is. This movie is not. I don't feel like this movie is as bad as what I initially thought the first time I saw it. I really didn't like this film the first time I saw the movie. I thought it was silly. It couldn't keep my attention. I liked seeing Matthew Lillard, but the rest of it I just was not a fan of. Upon rewatching it now and getting this second view, it's not terrible like I thought it was before. There are things about this plot and this story that I like, but there are other things that I do have issues with. Performances are okay. Again, love Matthew Lillard. I think he's great. The other characters, I feel like or the other cast members, I feel like at times perform very well, and then there's times where maybe not so much. This is not a terrible movie. I just don't know that I absolutely love this. Well, I know I don't absolutely love this movie either. I'm trying to decide how middle I think it is. I do want to see the sequel. Watching it again has made me want to see the sequel to see what's next in this universe. So it did get my attention enough, and I did enjoy it more upon this second watch to want to see the sequel and to see what happens for here. I don't love it, but I don't dislike it either. It's not bad. It's an interesting concept. Had I known more about the video game and maybe even played the video game at some point, maybe I would enjoy it even more. But that's really neither here nor there since I haven't. So for my rating of Five Nights at Freddy's, because it's not bad. I don't think it's great, but it's not bad either. Yeah, I guess. Wow, I'm really kind of stuck there. I guess I'll give it a 7. 6.5 or a 7. I'm kind of stuck in between there, but we'll say a 7. I'll give Five Nights at Freddy's a 7. Not a bad movie. Some enjoyable things. I just wish we would have gotten better kills. feel like there's some plot holes here and there, but overall, it's still, I enjoyed the rewatch today and did realize that I liked the movie better than I initially thought I did. And I'm looking forward to the sequel. So that's my thoughts on Five Nights at Freddy's. 7 out of 10 for me. Um, I want to know what you think. If you've seen this movie, let me know what you think. Leave me some comments. Tell me your opinion of this movie. Are you looking forward to the sequel? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? I mean, it's the interaction with you guys is part of the reason I do this. I love that so much. So give me your thoughts on Five Nights at Freddy's. Do you plan on going and trying to catch the sequel at the movies, or will you just wait till it's streaming somewhere and watch it that way? So yeah, leave me some comments. Let me know what you think about Five Nights at Freddy's. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Hit the like button today. Help me to continue to grow the channel. I do have a lot more fun episodes coming up. I'll be back in a couple of days with Isaiah from the Bitter Wolf to talk about the 2019 version of Black Christmas. Next week, Kelly and Sarah from Final Girls Podcast will be on, and we'll be talking about Alice Sweet Alice. I also have a live next week with Our Life in Horror, That Horror Couple, Critic After Dark, Mrs. Critic After Dark. We're all going to be on together, and I'm going to be the game show host, and they're going to play Black Christmas trivia. So that's coming up on the 11th. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff. Yet subscribe so you don't miss anything. That's going to be it for this episode. But again, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I will see you soon.